Well, welcome, and thank you all for coming to Big Talk. Big Talk at night. We're doing something different this year, so we really appreciate you coming. Is everybody in the right theater? There are 2 shows tonight. If you're not, we're not letting you leave. So, welcome. My name is Mark Heflin. I'm the director of all this. American illustration, American photography, the Latin American photo and illustration show, and what we're all here tonight to see, the International Motion Art Awards, plus a lot more. So, we're going to get started here really, really quickly. But I have a few people to thank. So just bear with me as I do. Welcome, come in. No, please come in. Or go around. Before we really get started, these are the people I have to thank. For without them, none of this would happen at all. SVA, for sure, for letting us all into their beautiful home here, year after year, I might add. And Stephen Fraley and his team and the team here are all fantastic. Able Cine, a new partner, very exciting partner with us, and you're going to hear more about them later, so stay tuned. Epson, a very important partner of ours, particularly with our Latin American show. Borrow Lenses, a new partner, and we're very excited to have them, and they have something to give away later as well. Kit Split is here, and I think Borrow Lenses and Kit Split had things to give away in the lobby, so I hope you got that as you walked in tonight. And a big thanks to the APA, American Photographic Artists. We're very excited to have their support. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You may applaud. So back to Big Talk. So what's different about tonight, is that it's at night, as opposed to the day-long series of panels we've been doing in the past. So now we're focusing exclusively on the International Motion Art Awards show, and we've built that out with a really cool panel. So you'll be, after the awards presentation, or awards screening, we have a panel with Jeff Lee from Able Cine, and filmmaker and directors Ben Moon and Paul Trillo. So stick around, please, for that. But, again, if you'll just bear with me here, I can't help but showing you the 2 new books, American Photography and American Illustration, and the Latin show, which we're going to continue celebrating tomorrow night at the party, right? Yes, okay. Everyone's coming? So the American Photography 32 book is here. It's blue and beautiful. American Illustration, 35. It comes in a really fancy box. It's all golded and gilded, and it's really, really fantastic. It needs like a parental discretionary warning for the cover, so don't look too closely. Next. Our Latin American Photography 5 cover, and our Latin American Illustration cover. And tomorrow night, thanks to Epson, from the winning Latin collection, we have a thing called Los Dias. And 10 photos and 10 illustrations will be exhibited at tomorrow night's party upstairs. So check it out. Other people I have to thank before we get the show going. Mauricio Ledesma, who's the project manager for the Latin American show. Many of you have met him. He's here somewhere. And Jeff Roberts, who makes all this happen while I kind of run around crazy. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You may applaud. And I think that's all I have to say. So we're on to the real thing here. Okay, International Motion Art Awards show. What does that title mean? That big, long title. And it comes from this. It's international, so all are welcome, as opposed to the American Photography, American Illustration, which is actually kind of international too. Motion art. when we thought about, oh, you know what, people are making their pictures move. Should we? And people came to us and said, you should do something with that. Well, we make books. What do we do? So we thought, let's come from the book. Let's make it genuine and come from the book and showcase artists who are working as still artists and photographers who are now venturing into motion. And they could be doing very slick commercial projects, which you'll see. They can be doing experimental work, which you'll also see. All of it really exciting. So we feel that the award itself comes from who we are, having published these hardbound books for 35 years. So we wanted it to be genuine. So that's where this title comes from. And we're about to begin the show. So coming from where we are, we have 4 categories: animation or illustration. We have live action or photography. We have motion graphics or design. And then our 4th category is student work. So you'll see all 4 back to back. I think it runs about 30 minutes. These are not the complete full projects. So I encourage you, and I'll have more on this later, when you leave, or whenever you feel like it, go to our online archive where you can see the full projects. So you'll see some kind of funny edits here, but we had to just for time. I think that's it. Should we just watch it? Okay, here we go. So we congratulate, you know what I want to add? Are there any Motion Art Awards winners here? Stand up. Stand up, Motion Art Awards winners. Terrific. Well, thank you and congratulations, and sit back and enjoy the show.
Everybody loves to laugh. But what if a hearty chuckle at the latest comedy causes you to squirt a little urine? Yeah, we know it's gross, but it happens. It's called stress urinary incontinence, and it's more common than you think. Don't blame yourself, blame your naturally aging body. What happens is the nerves and structures that hold things in place degenerate over time. The result? A burst of laughter, a cough, or sneeze can, well, make you pay more attention to those adult diaper commercials than you ever imagined you would. But no need to go there just yet. Here's what you can do to stay dry. First, pee often. If you normally hit the loo every 5 hours, go every 3. This leaves less liquid to leak from your bladder. Next, contract the muscles in your pelvis like you do when you're trying to stop your urine midstream. Do this for 10 seconds, 10 contractions, 10 times a day to strengthen your urinary sphincter muscles.
When I was younger, my daddy told me I would never amount to nothing special. He'd come at me from every angle. He'd say, you're the last thing I wanted, the last thing I need. How am I gonna answer when my friends tell me my son was kissing boys in the street? My son was kissing boys in the street. He tried to change me, say I'm embarrassing my country. How could I do this to my family? Do I want to grow up being lonely?
The city. I know it like I know the back of my hand. Look, there's that one freckle over there. I like my job because I like to drive. It keeps me moving, harder to pin down. This is my stop. Can't say that I mind the view.
Guten Abend.
German. The doll was German, which got me to thinking about how I ended up here. I was eking out a living as a private detective, but even calling it eking was being generous. I had finally gotten hired by a dame to follow her husband, making sure he wasn't up to any extracurricular activities, if you know what I mean. Making sure he wasn't buttering somebody else's bread. Off on a left-handed honeymoon, waging war on two fronts, hiking the Appalachian Trail, you get the idea.
Fitting in.
Standing out.
Coming together.
Pulling.
Apart.
Differences.
Dividing.
Us. Common threads uniting us. Finding common ground. That's bound.
To shift.
Strength in numbers.
Strength of self.
The power of we.
The pride of me.
The balance between. The flux.
The future isn't great for boys with a dad in prison. In fact, more than half of us will also end up behind bars. But with the support of St. Giles Trust, prisoners' families can break this cycle, freeing kids from a life of crime and misery. Help boys like me see a future without bars. Please give today at stgilestrust.org.uk.
True romance.
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Be extremely cautious of the signs of imminent danger. Please refer to your safety card before embarking on your journey. The heat, culmination of an excessive amount of focus, and the stifling atmosphere of neediness and overbearing attentiveness may lead to the burn, total loss, and the intense and overwhelming desire to immolate the subject of the aforementioned excessive focus, which in turn could lead to the chill, the inevitable self-destruction due to the obliteration of the aforementioned subject of excessive focus.
These helpful safety guides brought to you by
Destructo Industries, helping you help yourself.
My message would be that there's always a light at the end of any dark tunnel that you go into. Metaphorically speaking, or if you go into a cave, there's got to be a light shining at the end of the tunnel sometime. And sometimes life is like going into that cave. You're going to get lost at times, and you need to find a way out. And yes, we're going to trip and stumble over objects and obstacles through life. The same as if you were in a cave by yourself, you would trip and stumble over the rocks and whatever they call those things that hang down that look like icicles. They all might just stick up from the bottom of the cave. And yes, the chances are that while you're stumbling around in the dark like this, you're going to end up getting hurt.
Why are we in the Milky Way right now, dude? There's like nothing out here.
Dude, trust me, I heard about this planet that has resources for days. I'm talking f***ing volcanoes, trees, lakes.
Is that it? Please go meet us on Mondays. Thank you.
G baby G, G baby G baby G. I love my baby. Doobie doobie doo, yes I do. Doobie doobie doo, doobie, and I can trust in him 'cause I know that he'll be true. Doobie doobie doo, I love you, my baby. Doobie doobie doo, he's so good.
When I first started selling drugs, I was either 13 or 14. I was making a good amount of money in middle school. Once I got into high school, that's when I became really good. It was easy at that point. Everybody was doing drugs. I didn't know what I was gonna do. And now, I wake up every day with a purpose.
I want to see you. I want to see you. Know your voice. Recognize you when you first come around the corner. Sense your scent when I come into a room you've just left. Know the lift of your heel, the glide of your foot. Become familiar with the way you purse your lips, then let them part, just the slightest bit. When I lean into your space and kiss you.
I love Klamath so much, I wrote a song about it. Meet me in Klamath, there's so much we can do. We can climb a mountain, we can paddle a canoe. We can golf, we can hike, we can fish, we can bike. Just meet me here in Klamath, and I'll meet you there too, yeah. Meet me in Klamath, and I'll meet you there too. Keep it Klamath, people.
You can do a fucking asshole, right? Fucking asshole. I'm praying that she's not a loser. I'm praying she's not a loser. Jeb Bush is a loser. Another great man out of Brooklyn. Used by a lot of dumb people. Destroyed creativity as we know it. Thank God my face isn't on Facebook. How can a man be such a genius and an asshole at the same time? I always considered him a pal. He's still speaking to an empty chair. I was shooting an Esquire cover of Woody Allen laying on top of Anne Margaret, and I told him to get off, and he said, "Do I have to?"
Take your hand and lead you in the woods. Wanna
And now, said I, here is an allegory to visualize the scope in which our nature may be illuminated or beclouded. Envision the state of men inhabiting a kind of cavernous subterranean chamber whose entrance is exposed to the light and is preceded by a long passageway down into a cave. The prisoners have been here since childhood, chained by their legs and necks to limit movement and vision, so that only what is in front of them can be seen. The chains will not allow their heads to turn.
Let's start at the very beginning.
For the experiment, we must now see whether computers can get creative. And just as humans do, it all starts with the spark of an idea.
Do, re, mi. Do, re, mi.
A distributed machine intelligence looks a bit like this.
5, 6, 7, 8.
An idea is generated here. The Madrid machine assesses its potential to be the spark of a good story here. The Slovenia machine predicts if people will like it. Then humans rate the ideas too. The more it tries, the more it learns. The better ideas it gets.
Hello.
Once she was the sun, the stars, the sky, later lost in reflection, the false self, in mind's eye.
Yeah, Islam national underground thunder bounce when I stomp the ground like a million elephants, a silverback orangutan. You can't stop a train. Who wants some? Don't come unprepared. I'll leave there, but when I leave there, better be a household name. Weatherman telling us it ain't gon' rain, so now we sitting in a drop top soaking wet in a silk suit, trying not to sweat. Hit somersaults without the net, but this be the year that we won't forget. 1999. I don't need anything goes. Be what you wanna be.
I have known love, and love is one. I've burned my fingers on the sun. I've been...
It just stopped. But that was it. So what do you think? Don't tell me. I'll tell you what. We have something new. We have something new, and I want to get this right. You can tell us what you think in our new community award project, where you can go on our website, view all of the projects in full, and vote for the ones you like, right? Share them, tag them, do all those things that we all do online to help promote these artists and their work. And the winner gets a prize. Wait. The winner, oh, here we go. Yes, I knew this already. The winner gets a prize from Borrowed Lenses, one of our sponsors, and also from Kit Split. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool things. So please go online. We'll be pushing this, so we'll let you know where and how. It's going to be on a special Facebook page. Check them all out again. Vote for the ones you like. And this will be open through December, so you'll have time to do it. Okay? Tell all your friends. Share this work. We want to get them out there. So again, congratulations to the winners. I know you're in the house. And I have to also thank the jurors. Are there any jurors in the house? They're probably all stuck at work, right? Well, we had a really fantastic jury this year. Check them out on our website. And so big thanks to all of them. I'm sure you'll see them tomorrow night at the party. And by the way, this will be playing tomorrow night at the party. Yep, it will. Those are two things. Okay, those are a couple things I wanted to mention. Oh, you know, one other thing. You may have realized that we only credited one person per project. And as we know, animation is a really collaborative art form. But our award program focuses on, as we call it, the hand and the eye, the singular artist's vision for each of the projects. So that's why, if you're wondering, you only saw, in most cases, one name. Okay? Now, we're moving on to our filmmaker panel discussion. One more thing I want to mention. Stick around. After this, we've got a couple special things happening, and one of which is we're going to be having a champagne toast for all the winners out in the lobby, okay? So stick around for the booze, right? Are you 21? Some of you are not, I don't think. Anyway, so I mentioned the panel. We're really excited about this. Jeff Lee from Able Cine, our new partner in the International Motion Art Awards, has brought us and you Ben Moon and Paul Trillo.
All right. This is exciting. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm Jeff. I am from Able Cine, and we are, sort of a traditional company in that we support filmmakers and image makers of the traditional variety, meaning documentary. That's sort of what we started about 25 years ago. But as technology evolves, certainly the tools have evolved as well, and what we're seeing tonight is a good, I think, sign of that, is that it's no longer just cameras and pen and paper and computers and illustration. It's like the kind of mixture of everything all together into this sort of new brave world of mixed media. Right, so Able as a company is very excited to be here, and I'm very grateful to be joined by these two fantastic artists. So I guess I'll just do it just because alphabetically and kind of matches what's on the screen. Ben, who's sitting a little bit further from me, all right, as it says, there is one of the Sony artisans of imagery, but is of course a still photographer, right, self-taught. You've been shooting for about 15 plus years, although you went to school for, I think, sports medicine.
Yeah, that's correct.
So sort of a related field, obviously. But you did this short, which some of you may be familiar with, called Denali, which was at the simplest definition, a love story about you and your dog. But I think it goes more in, beyond that, which we'll talk about. Right. So, yeah, and of course, Paul, who's closer to me, went to school for traditional, I guess, experimental filmmaking, illustration, now director and visual effects artist, and you do a lot of fun stuff. And as so we saw Ben's, which was the full off season, which is on online now, and with Paul, we saw sort of snippets of a few projects. So before we start, I have to say thank you very much for joining us. To the audience, to those watching elsewhere, I don't know if this is being live streamed, but if it is, hello world. Be sure to check it out online. Do yourselves a favor, go to Paul's website, go to Ben's website, because we only saw like about 5 minutes of each of their work, and that's not enough to really qualify who they are and what they are. So it'd be unfair to them, I think. But so thank you again so much for joining us. So if I may, I'd like to start with sort of a basic question. Where do you guys sort of draw inspiration from? Like, how do you, actually, I'll start over. I'll rephrase that. I did a little 5-minute intro on you guys, but can you tell us more about yourselves as a whole and sort of where you come from and how you approach visual storytelling? Whoever wants to take it's for both of you, so.
The same order.
Yeah.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, I mean, my background is in more adventure photography. I was a climber and surfer first, and I started out very similar to Daniel in the film, kind of living in my van, traveling around the West, and I began just kind of by shooting. I was inspired by those that I came in contact with in my travels and in the activities that we all participated in, and I shot that for a few years. I was working for Patagonia, doing a lot of the catalog work, and which is all kind of real. It's not scripted, and I actually battled cancer myself, and that actually took me back and made me realize that all these peaked, whatever you want to call it, extreme circumstances weren't exactly what life was all about. Being knocked flat for a couple of years and not being able to do those things made me realize that it's the human connections and all those around us those relationships that really matter. And I became a lot more fascinated with people and what makes, I feel like every individual is so unique, and got more into portraiture and music, and I feel like film is something that just encompasses all of that. And so yeah, I think I always say I'm inspired by human emotion. It's just, we're endlessly fascinating creatures. So
sure. So yeah, I guess a little bit more on what you touched on. I originally did have like an illustration and painting background, which I think is maybe somewhat relevant to some of the work on display here. But ultimately found that medium, I don't know, kind of limiting. And I think that's why you see a lot of people here looking for ways to expand it. And it seems like the natural way to go in depth is through time. So yeah, but I think I still use some of the sensibilities like from illustration, from design, and some of that, the thinking from art school and applying it maybe in, a commercial sense, where, I try to come up with a set of rules, like a concept, and, play as much as I can within that boundary, but at least there's like something cohesive about it, that it's not just, I don't know, whatever I feel like that if you stick to rules, I feel like it's becomes harder to argue with the piece. That's just, it's like a safety kind of. But I think a lot of, like, personally as an artist, I am trying not to repeat myself. So that's why I think the work is so varied and even maybe all over the place, is just because it's just like I'm always interested in doing something I haven't done before. So as soon as I've like sort of figured out like a math problem, I want to like a new equation to work on. So so there's a sort of continual pursuit for these new techniques and new effects.
And it's funny you mentioned this sort of evolution and this new brave world, of creating images and stories. Have you guys all seen that YouTube clip of the baby trying to interact with the iPad, and then the parent or whoever takes away the iPad and gives them like a traditional newsprint book or a magazine, and the baby's really frustrated that the pictures don't come to life and that she can't touch the person's face and animate it? So thinking about that, I thought was really interesting, in that future generations won't possibly know print media, won't know traditional still sort of imagery. So how do you see yourselves, again, for both of you, just jump in whenever. But how do you see this evolution affecting your work or affecting the future generations of work as a whole? Is that a way out there question?
No, I mean, I don't think it'll affect our work because we've already kind of moved into doing multiple things. But I think you will see, I mean, just like the access to tools that kids have at a younger age, I'm like extremely jealous of and I think it's fascinating because it could be incubating ideas that we could never dream of because they can shoot 4K video, like, you know, a 5-year-old could shoot 4K video now. Like the possibilities of that or just being able to like learn coding and animation at a young age, I think is really exciting because those are all things that like, those are all skills you learn, I don't know, maybe starting around 15, 16 years old or even later. So to like see those skills start to develop earlier on, I think it's extremely exciting. But I have no idea what it'll lead to. But hopefully something interesting. But yeah, I don't. What was your point about some like print dying or?
Well, no, not necessarily print dying, but just the idea that possibly, you know, and Ben, of course, as a still photographer, like the idea that static imagery is not captive enough potentially for future generations. And we all joke about like kids having short attention spans and all that, but like maybe this is a possibility moving forward that like you need to engage with your audience in a very different way than how we used to do it with like traditional still imagery or illustration or whatever, or motion.
I think the more that I've gone in, I mean, in the motion world the last 9 years or whatever, I think, I mean, starting in film or still photography using film, and then, you know, learning digital and then learning motion. I've just noticed how now everything is, you know, online and everything. We have so much media coming at us. I think the still image is still really powerful in a way. It's just, there's still something that, motion is really hard to match that. And so every time I think it's going to go away, it just seems to become more powerful even. And in watching a lot of, you know, the next generation of photographers and stuff get really interested in, you know, the big Polaroid movement, and now everybody's kind of wanting to shoot film again and realizing that we have so many options on our phones and everywhere else that it's really nice to have limitations. And I feel like the more complex things get, the more I want it to just be simple as well. So I feel like, I don't know, that they'll be, I feel like both have a place, and all have, you know, they all have their place, and kind of, I think the more media that comes at us, the more we want to just kind of be grounded in the, you know, just to hold a book, or, you know, I think they thought that, you know, books were going to die too, and now they're kind of coming back again too. So it's hard to say.
Yeah, I actually, I think I probably get more inspiration from still imagery, whether it's photography or just, you know, other forms of you know, design or painting. But I actually think I might pull more, like when I see like a really strong photo, it almost inspires me more to like be like, all right, what would that look like in motion? Instead of seeing a film and being like, oh, I want to recreate that film. Like, it's like I see imagery and I kind of like, I'm like, what would that look like in a sequence? You know, if you this image and this, and so I think, yeah, I don't know, still imagery is a great source of inspiration. I mean, you could just stare at it forever. You know, I think that's, yeah.
I think we're being, you know, just with how the attention spans now are shrinking to the mere fragments of seconds. And I think that, you know, if an image can get you to stop, whereas for footage it has to play or something has to happen or you have to actually interact with it, you know, there's still something that when you see a photograph that if it makes you stop and think, and you get immersed a lot deeper, quicker than having to sit through something. So
that's a fair point. Again, I'm not trying to dismiss still imagery, and you know, obviously everything comes full circle. I mean, almost to the point where you mentioned books, but you know, Amazon is going to start having physical storefronts, which is kind of a bizarro world that we're living in with all this. But Paul, you touched upon this a little bit in your inspiration. Like you see a visual image or illustration or painting or whatnot, and you sort of this creative juices start flowing. Is that your sort of creative? Is that what you draw from when you are thinking creatively? Is it normally stills, or do you have other avenues?
You mean just like as far as like process, like
Yeah, your
for
process,
coming up?
or what is your where do you draw inspiration from?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the music videos and some of the commercials do come out of like, seeing still photography and wanting to see what that would look like in motion, because there's so many ways to manipulate a photograph that I think people are still finding, like bridging those ways of manipulating photographs now into motion. So I don't know. There's just like an immense pool, and like I don't know. Yeah, there's just more style I've seen in photography than I think you're used to seeing in film. So I think that's why I've pulled a lot from that. But I think there's also a side that is like the effects and visual effects side, that where, you know, I know like, oh, this effect exists, but how, or this camera rig exists, but how can you use it to create like a feeling or a story with that technique, that technology, that effect. So it's kind of like looking at, you know, what stuff's out there, what's available, what stuff's like kind of emerging, and then trying to like give justify using it. And there's a lot of like techniques and effects that like I want to play with, but I just haven't found like the justification for it yet. So I think that's like a huge part, is like, does your concept like do justice to the effect, and vice versa?
In some ways, you're kind of chasing after the idea, maybe before you have the, I don't know, or maybe you see the means to do it before you have the idea, and you sort of
sure, yeah. And then I mean like I mean there's like the behind the back thing was just like oh, okay, what could you do with a, you know, instead of a front facing like Snorri camera, like behind the back I thought would be an interesting perspective, but like what kind of story you're trying to tell. And it's like, all right, well, it seems like oddly intimate, but also you don't see the person's face, so there's like a bit of like a paranoia to that, or mystery to it. And so I think the image came first, and then I sort of extracted what kind of story could be told from that.
Interesting. And Ben, what about you? Is as a still photographer, how did you sort of start diving into the world of video and emotion and everything else that you're doing these days?
I started befriending a few musicians and had toured with a few bands, and I'd shot a lot of live music, and was just kind of getting bored with, you know, just the behind the scenes photos, and also just the, you know, live. There's only so many things you can do in a live show, and it was kind of when that whole 5D revolution came about, when we could suddenly shoot video with her. And I remember just running up the aisle at a show really late and clicked the video, and just I had it, prime lens on there, and just being completely enamored with the image on the back, and sort of the band. And it was kind of a big deal at that time to be able to produce an image like that. And that kind of led to a few music videos, and then some commercial work and storytelling. And so it was kind of, but like you'd mentioned, when you'd watch a couple of my films, you felt like a lot of it felt like a moving portrait. And I feel like that's what I love about it. I mean, it was like, stills, you kind of feel like you get limited by only being able to do so much unless you go. There's just a lot of techniques after, 10, 15 years of doing it, you start to feel a little bit plateaued. And I just liked how making moving images was constantly challenging, and how much gear has evolved in the last 8 years or whatnot is fully fascinating. But like you were saying, Paul, sometimes it's like we have these crazy, we have the ability to do these techniques, and you have a Phantom or drones or whatever type of super slow motion or aerials or whatnot. But if it feels like at first everybody overdoes it, just like the early 5D videos, everything was shot at super shallow apertures, and then everything was drone, and then everything was slow-mo, and it's just kind of like, but what's the story? I mean, it all comes back to what are you trying to tell? And And lately, with the success of that Denali film, I've been tasked with writing a book, and it's like going all the way back, like what is the story, and just like distilling it down to just writing, which is kind of the most basic of all storytelling. And so yeah, it's all a process. It's a constant evolution. Like you said, Paul, it's like I don't want to do what I've already done before, and so it's always kind of like we're sitting there watching our work on the screen. It's like the last thing you want to do is see what you've already done. As soon as you lock and edit, it's over. I just want to be over it. So.
It's funny. Often I speak to a lot of artists, and they often say that's the hardest thing is to watch your own work on a big screen. Like in your head, it's a great idea. Like you have an awesome projector and awesome surround sound, but it's like you're just grimacing, going, what's next? Like, what's that next drive? Right. And it's funny you mentioned writing because before this we were talking about like you're now going back to trying to write, which is probably the most basic form of storytelling, right? All the way back to the cavemen and drawing on the walls, right?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like I get so bogged down with gear and on a film production or whatnot, and here it's like writing. You have to sit down and just make yourself write, and the tools are really simple. There's no excuses other than forcing yourself to just start typing, or writing. So
I'm happy you said that, just because we go through the noise of all the gear that's out there, and you brought up a really great point that with the advent of whatever new technology is out there, everyone is rushing to go do that thing, to the point where you see another clip from that whatever that technology is, and you go, ugh, not again. Yeah. Like I'm so tired of this, in some ways. So, like, how are you guys sort of breaking out of that? Not to say mold, but how are you breaking out of that limitation, I guess, or you get pigeonholed? In some ways, like, do you find yourself in those situations at all? Like, known as like, and I'm not trying to pigeonhole you right now, but being known as a guy that does all this outdoorsy stuff in Volkswagen, camper vans, and like, how do you break free of that, for example?
Or dog stories now. Well, I feel like when I take a step back, I just really am more fascinated now by. I just want instead of just trying to do lots and lots of work, I want to do work that really feels like it has some meaning and has depth, and it's no longer interesting to me to just kind of be on the road 300 days a year. I want to be able to like take the time to do things well and do things right, and so it's kind of just waiting for those when you kind of know when a good story hits you or a good project. It's just because all of a sudden you're obsessed with it, and so yeah.
So sorry, totally. Loved your answer, and I forgot what the question was. How do you?
Well, I guess so. In some ways, I find folks are end up doing a lot of the same thing, right? Because they get known for it. And
sure.
So how do you break away from that mold that society or clients or whatever has like dictated upon you?
Yeah, I mean it's a hard thing to navigate as you're. I don't know like where people are at here, but. Whether you're just getting into, advertising work or whatever kind of work, wanting to stand out with a voice is key. What are you bringing to the table that, the next person isn't thinking, or what are you adding to the conversation? So you want your voice to be specific and strong and memorable. And there's some really great work where I was like, well, that person's got their own style already figured out. But at least personally, like I do get sick of doing the same thing. So it's hard because you want someone to be like, oh, we need the guy that does this or the gal that does this. The guy that does dog stories, we're doing a Purina thing. We need the guy that only can do dog stories. And so I think the only way it's totally fine to like leapfrog off your pre-existing work to get more work because being known for something is better than not being known for anything. But what you have to do is find the time to still explore and push yourself outside of that. It's really easy to get swept up in redoing concepts for other people that you kind of continually need to like step back and I guess kind of like where you're at now. Yeah.
I was also going to say, just to add to that, the personal projects are the best way to branch out. I mean, that's
That's the only way to show that you can do something, because
yeah,
no one trusts that you can you can be like, oh, I can do this, but if they haven't seen that you can do it, then no one believes you. So,
and like music videos are usually barely enough to pay for craft services, and you're asking favors of everyone, and so projects like that, or I started just doing the portrait project that was just same lens, natural light, black and white, with just the Faces series, and just with people that inspired me, and just a really simple project, and that ended up, I really enjoyed it because there wasn't all the, all the pressures. I could do that anywhere and take it with me anywhere, and I ended up getting a lot of commercial work from that, and it was completely different from any of the adventure work that I had been doing up to that point, or lifestyle stuff. So.
That's actually a really interesting point. I love that you, like you said, you have clients, you got to pay the bills, right? Unfortunately, that's an inevitable truth of it all. But by using your personal work, you go out there, do it on your own time to your specifications. You don't answer to anyone else because you are your own boss for that project, and through that, you've other projects and other clients have come calling. And I think personally that's really inspirational, because I've met plenty of artists over the years that are, again, they're kind of in a little bit of a rut because they get known as the whatever person, and it's just really hard for them to break free from that. So, and you brought up a good point too, finding your voice, finding your style that works for you, but not being afraid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, to go out of that comfort zone, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think from playing around with so many different techniques now. It's no longer just like, oh, you're the guy that can like do the rotating camera. Can you do that again? Which, I have had to repeat myself. But I think when you build a portfolio that does show like a breadth, that there is something, cohesive about it, but there is a total range within that, then people, it's just, you need to get to the point where you have a lot of work so that then people will trust you, because they've seen that you will push boundaries and that you'll, explore a new idea that, people aren't used to seeing. So then they'll trust you to continue to explore. And now I get jobs where I'm doing techniques that I haven't done before, but someone's asking me to do something I've never done before, which wasn't how it started out. I had to really prove myself. But then I think once you show like, hey, look, I can figure out any problem, then that's how people will look to you as like a problem solver.
So how do you overcome that initial fear of, oh crap, I've never done this before?
I mean, you hear it all the time. Just like, don't be afraid to fail. It's like I don't know even who first said that, but it's like that's really what it comes down to, is you got to make a lot of shitty stuff. And, if it doesn't work out, just don't show anyone. Don't talk about it. Just be ashamed and then never talk about it. Put it in a drawer and put it in a folder and put it in the trash can. So you have to do that, because it doesn't always work out. There's stuff I should even go back on my Vimeo page and maybe remove more stuff. But there's stuff I'll go back on Vimeo and be like, ugh, and I'll hide it. I don't delete it, but I make it private. So there's, you're always going to be kind of embarrassed. Previous work, just even watching my stuff now, I'm like, that's getting a little old. But you have to be kind of embarrassed about your work in order to get out of your comfort zone and try those things. So yeah, I don't know. Just if you think that everything's going to be a success, you're going to be disappointed.
I forget who it was that said this, but this is failure is great. Well, failure sucks, but rebounding from the failure, that's great.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's much more satisfying if you do something that didn't work out, and then you kind of learn from that, and then what you do afterwards is so much better, and it just kind of happened naturally.
Any failures you want to share with everyone here? Just It's okay. You don't have to answer that if you don't want.
I mean, nothing. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Just like I'm trying to think. I mean, there's different kinds of failures. I mean, there's failures where I'm losing my own money, and then there's failures where I'm losing other people's money. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I've like burnt a lens trying to like figure something out before, and yeah, I don't know, but like whatever. It's just a thing you can buy again. So, but yeah, and then I mean, there's definitely been commercial jobs where like I tried something and it was almost a success, and but the amount of money that someone had to pay to make it happen like did not make them want to come back to me again. But it was whatever for me. It was worthwhile try just playing with other people's money. So I think you just have to be like not scared that like there's always going to be work out there too. So I mean this is not like what clients should hear, but like like if even with commercial projects, like if they fail, don't worry, like there'll be another client. Yeah.
So anything to add to that, Ben? I mean, you obviously have also corporate clients too that you have to think about.
Yeah, I mean, you hope that it's not a complete failure. You hope that, you might not like
out to fail.
Yeah, you don't set out to fail, but I mean, on a personal project level, I mean, Denali, like the very first edit for that was a pretty complete failure. Like it was something that, we'd tried to put together. It was all set to go at a festival, and right before the festival, I pulled the plug. I was like, this doesn't feel right. And we kind of agreed that it wasn't ready. And it took an entire another year of trying and failing and trying to finally found the right person to like handle the edit, and then 6 months of convincing them that they could do it. So it was, and then that project was really successful, but it wasn't we just filmed a little bit and then it happened. It was a lot of picking myself back up, and when everybody's like, no, you can't do this. And I was like, there's something here, and so it's kind of believing in the process, but obviously with commercial work, you don't have that luxury. You enter a deadline, and if you blow it, I won't have that client again. And you just realize that there will be more clients out there, and it's, you do your best, and that's all you can do.
I think there's something important though, with checking yourself, like even if you got into a festival and then you pulled it from the festival.
Yeah, I called the festival director and was like, sorry.
I think that's amazing, because you're keeping yourself in check, whether other people like it or not. I think that's really important, because you can be swept in just trying to get something done that you're not even making compromises with other people. You're just making compromises with yourself, because you're trying to like get something done, and you constantly have to like keep yourself in check. Like, is this the best decision right now? Like I don't know, because you can get swept up in just like the practicality or the logistics of something.
And that's not to say that there has to be, when you wrap an edit, they have to like say when it's done. But there's sometimes when it just isn't the right fit. So
I was going to add, actually, it's interesting that you say that, because to me, outside observer, Denali I thought was fantastic, and here I am thinking it was just you just went in, shot it, edited, and done. And to hear you say that it took you a year of re-edits basically. So at what point did you look at the final edit, what is now the final edit, and say, that's it, I got it?
My friend Ben Knight, who I worked with on that, he's very decisive, and when he finally put it all together, it was 90% there, and I just knew it. And so we just refined that, and it was, when it was right, you kind of know. But there's a lot of projects, where you're just kind of pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and you get so in it that you can't see out of it, and you kind of, have to have a few trusted peers that you can share your work with that are honest and can tell you the truth and tell you if it was just terrible and go back to square one. But when it just depends. It's project to project,
Again, that's just really interesting to hear that you've got so far to the point where you're in a festival, which for a lot of us is the last step in like the big leagues, and then you last minute said no, it doesn't feel right. So it's pretty amazing. So just trying to keep an eye on time here. I know we want to keep a little bit of time for questions from the audience, but I guess I have a last question, I guess, before we turn it over to the audience. And this is going to be probably my most out there question, right? But I like this one because it sort of resembles what we can leave behind in our mark. So basically, like if a future archaeologist were to dig up our work, or your work in this case, what do you want their takeaway to be if they were to watch it? Apropos of nothing, they don't know anything about you, they didn't get the benefit of this introduction. What do you want them to take away from it, or future generations to take away from it? I told you it was a random out there question. Yeah, right.
I guess I would just hope that some of the work would evoke some sort of they'd be able to relate to it in some way that would evoke an emotion in them. So.
Yeah, I mean, again, for me, with like exploring techniques and stuff like that, it comes down to like trying to give people something new to look at. I mean, at the end of the day, the way I view my job is just like I'm just trying to like give people shit to look at. I just want, it's like all I want to see something, and hopefully other people want to see the same thing. So I think if you were to like step back or whatever, it's like oh, I haven't seen, I don't know what the reference was here. Like this hopefully is unique, and I don't know, they can't like place it in any sort of historical context. Hopefully, I mean, I don't want to like sound like self-aggrandizing, but you know what I mean. Like that, you're at least there's like some sort of pursuit of trying to like capture an image that, is unique in of itself. I think people are just like constantly in need of seeing new stuff. So that's what I think a lot of my drive comes from.
Oh, thank you for that again. I know that was sort of a very out there, elusive question. So real quick, anything you want to add before we turn it over to the audience? Any last parting words? All right, good talk. All right. So with that, I'd like to open up to the audience. I know there's some microphones on either end of the aisles here. So does anyone have any questions? Just let us know, and they would like, if possible, to speak into the microphone so I guess the recording can hear us. Anyone at all? Is this are you leaving, or are you asking a question? No, she's leaving. Okay. Really, no one at all. Is everyone just so mesmerized by? There you go. Question, please.
Wait, I have to walk over there.
You got to work for it, man.
Wow. All right, Ben. I saw in the credits that you did some camera work, but you had a DP. I'm curious how much, when you're shooting, how much of it is you directing, and how much of it is you doing your own camera work?
A lot of times I work with a really small crew, and so I'll hire a DP that can obviously execute the vision that I have initially. But a lot of times I'll run B camera, I'll fly the drone, I'll man camera on the drone. We kind of always have about 2 to 4 people on most of the sets I'm on, just because it gets in the way. And so yeah, I love directing to step back and get the big picture, but I also really like getting in there. And all the shots that were on the that were stabilized in motion, and on a Ronin or a Movi, in that I think I shot all of those, and then there were a lot of handheld as well that the DP shot. But I usually work with DPs that we all can kind of mesh visually. So thanks, Tony.
Anyone else? We've answered all of your. Oh, yes, another one.
What's your role, both of you, in terms of editing? Do you start with an editor and have a story and a framework, or do you shoot a bunch of stuff and then hope to make sense? Or is there something in the middle? And do you guys edit yourselves?
I started out editing my own work, and then I gradually backed out of that. I'd much rather, I kind of drive myself crazy in the first kind of the putting it all together, the the sifting through the footage phase. But I love directing the edit and like having the story flow, and then the refining stage is my favorite. So I like to have an editor picked out at the beginning, but like with Denali, it was something that it was kind of came over time. I realized who the right person was. But yeah, it's kind of a mixed, but I've realized the value of having an editor picked out ahead of time that can kind of get involved in the story and be, it really does help. I personally am too detail oriented, so if I edit the entire thing, I have to kind of just like go into a vicious cycle.
Yeah, I also started out editing all my own stuff. I think a lot of that comes from practical standpoint of like, okay, I actually don't know how to do this effect yet. So it's like a lot of trial and error on my end before I involve other people of like, all right, what is the process here? What is the workflow? But really, it just depends on the project because some are more experimental than others. I think the more experimental ones, I need to kind of like figure out what that process is. But with the more story-based ones, it's just like infinitely helpful to have another voice in the room, and because you just don't know at a certain point, like if like you have feelings, like right, you had a gut feeling about your first edit of Denali, but you don't really know how to like you don't have like a bouncing board to actually like pinpoint all the time what's wrong with something if you're just in your own echo chamber. So I think it's really important, even if you can't get an editor on your project, to at least have like a consulting editor. Yeah.
Because I find that if you're the director or if you're the DP, or if you've played those roles, you have a much harder time in the edit room killing those shots that you're just so attached to, and like having an editor
big
just
picture stuff.
Yeah, and so it's way too easy just to put all the prettiest pictures in there, and not what actually serves the story. And so,
thank you. That was a great question. Anyone else? We have a microphone on this side too, so you don't feel obligated to cross over everybody. If anyone on this half has any questions? Yes, question over there, sir. Okay.
How much time do you guys spend on pre-production storyboards, visual concepts, and visualizations before you actually go ahead with your concept? Besides just working with a script and just going forward, like do you do any sketches or concept work before you go ahead with your projects?
it kind of depends on the project. Some we've thought out, just blocked out, and maybe used reference images. Some we've actually sketched out, but it completely depends on the project. I've gone with just a written, I think getting the right, you have to find the right location, the right, cast the right subjects and all of that. So a lot of it for me is, visualizing what might happen and then what really happens, which is usually a lot of times even better than what you could have visualized initially. So,
yeah, it depends on the project, but for me, my process is definitely based there's a lot of writing involved, but then I usually, not all the time, but I usually do my own storyboards because I just that's me figuring out what it's going to look like rather than just asking someone else to do the storyboards. So that's definitely part of my process. And if it is there's been projects that are very timing specific or time sensitive. I'm sure phantom slow motion related things where the camera needs to go from here to here at 1,300 frames a second, in 5 seconds. So you need to it depends. But some of the stuff is so technical that you need to do proof of concept stuff. And you need to know, is this going to work? Do I have a plan? Because that's what it comes down to, is like having a plan that you can clearly communicate to other people. So again, it kind of goes back to like a little bit of trial and error or failure, but just doing that within your own kind of bubble first. And then once you have that plan, then you can actually clearly communicate it to everyone else that you're involving. So I guess specifically, it wasn't one of the clips shown here, but I think you've seen pieces of it. Is the one take drone short film I did. It's like a 10-minute shot with dialogue. It's basically like a play, all shot from a drone. A lot of it's eye level, and the whole thing beat by beat was 3D animated with like 3D like sort of sim like figures, and the camera like moved around, and then we manually recreated each camera beat on location. But had we not done a pre-visualization of that 10-minute roaming shot, we would have showed up and like been figuring out like, you know, all day what we're trying to do, and then your son's gone. So yeah, it depends on how technical it is, really. If it's not a technical piece, sometimes I think too much planning can be detrimental. Yeah.
Great. So that's all the time we have for today. I do again want to thank Ben Moon and Paul Trillo for joining us. Please everyone give them a round of applause.
The International Motion Art Awards, for the first time in its 5 years, is awarding one grand prize to one of the winners you saw in tonight's collection. This is based on the jury vote. And the recipient, we're very excited, is here. And it's been a pleasure to meet him. I've never met him. So that's very exciting for me. And thanks to Jeff and Abel Cine, this recipient's getting a really pretty cool prizes, I should say. And I will have Jeff explain what that is. So with no further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce to you tonight's grand prize winner of the International Motion Art Awards prize to Sandro. Sandro, will you please come to the stage? Congratulations.
Thank you, Mark.
It's really so great to meet you.
Well,
after so many years.
Thank you.
Yes, I know you work very well, and it's always a pleasure having you in American Photography.
Awesome.
We're so glad for your support with the motion show, and congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And you're getting a really sweet prize. Jeff, will you please tell us all about it?
It's a piece of paper.
Come
All
to the
right. It is my pleasure as representative of Abel Cine to present you with a brand new Sony PXW X200 camcorder, plus a set of Miller tripod as well.
Wonderful.
So I saw some of your work. Awesome, fantastic. So hopefully you do really well with this as well, and all your future endeavors as well.
Great.
So again, thank you so much.
Great.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just really want to quickly really acknowledge Mark Heflin here. You know, Mark's doing something really, really incredible for photographers. He has the toughest awards book to get in. It's called AP, American Photographer, correct? Is that what they call it? Yeah. I have been fortunate to be in it about 4 or 5 times, but he is really, really, really doing great things, and now he has transferred that energy over into motion, and I just really appreciate what you're doing to bringing the recognition to people who are out there working it and living it every single day like us real photographers and real filmmakers do.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Sandra, thank you. And thank all of you. I have slight regret that we're not able to show the full film by Sandro. But soon, not now, soon, you can see the full film as part of the collection in the archive. Okay? Well, thank you. That's it. We're gonna go drink champagne now. How about that? Thank you for your support. Thank you for coming. Thanks to all of our winners. Thanks to all of our sponsors again for their support and their help. We couldn't do it without them, that is for sure. So let's go drink.